Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's so lovely to see everyone and to be a part of this always extraordinary event. And I know you're waiting with bated breath for the announcement today, and so I'm going to turn you immediately over to Fran Stoddard, who is today's host.
Okay. Thank you, Doreen, and to BCA. So welcome to you all to the 2024 Herb Lockwood Prize in the Arts. I'm Fran Stoddard, and this is the 11th year of the Herb Lockwood Prize, and it's always awarded to one of Vermont's most influential artists, musicians, writers, or other creative individuals. And it's just such a gift to Vermont. It's really awesome. And for those of you that are not familiar with the Herb Lockwood Prize, just allow me to give you a quick summary. Herb Lockwood moved to Vermont in 1982 after graduating from Hamilton College. Tragically, he died only 5 years later in a workshop accident in Burlington. He'd been apprenticing with a very gifted cabinet maker, one of the many creative pursuits that Herb wanted to master. And although he lived in Vermont for only 5 years, Herb Lockwood's impact on the region's arts and artists has proved to be enduring and profound. The breadth of art forms he practiced and his influence on other artists in all manner of disciplines created a legacy that remains inspirational decades later. The Herb Lockwood Prize seeks to recognize a person of comparable creativity and influence. The prize aims to reward the pinnacle of arts leadership in the state, blessed with creative energy, disproportionate to its little population. So, and let me say that he was an artist, he was a musician, he was a craftsman, I can go on, and writer, amazing writer, really, really wonderful. So he really encompassed all those things. And every year, the Herb Lockwood Prize goes about its business, staying completely below the radar. There is no application process. The artists have no idea that they're even being considered, except for the one person who each year gets a surprise phone call. And over the years, those phone calls have become the stuff of legend. You might want to talk to Todd about that if you want to hear some of the stories. Burlington City Arts Foundation is honored to administer the prize, created through the generosity of private donors. This year, we would like to thank the following donors who helped make the 2024 Herb Lockwood Prize possible. Of course, Todd R. Lockwood, also David A. Lockwood, Mike Gordon, Pat Robbins and Lisa Schamberg, Nat Winthrop, Michael Lipson, also Bill Gottesman and Deborah Lopez, and Charlie and Mima Tipper. We would also like to thank the Media Factory for providing professional video coverage of the event. And now I'd like to welcome one of Herb Lockwood's longtime friends to the podium. Libby Barlow is Associate Provost at Dartmouth College. Her musical collaboration with Herb began in 1982 at Hamilton College, where they often sang together at campus coffee house events. Libby is going to share a snapshot of that musical alliance with us. Please welcome Libby Barlow.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I met Herb because he had been my college boyfriend's roommate. They were 2 years older, so by the time I met Herb, he was probably a senior and definitely getting ready to move on. There are plenty of people from my college days whom I spent more time with, but none had the impact that Herb did. So I want to share with you two Herb happenings that I still carry with me 40 years later. First is a simple one. So after graduation, Herb and his significant other moved to Huntington, Vermont. They rented a house. And at the time, and even up until Todd told me yesterday, I didn't know where Huntington was. So when the boyfriend and I were getting ready to pay a visit, Herb insisted that a regular map would not be helpful, and he would draw us one. So keep in mind that the landscape we're in here is 1982, 83-ish. Travel and maps. No cell phones, no internet, no Google Maps, just those folded paper things from the gas station. This crowd mostly is old enough to know what I'm talking about. or if you were really serious, one of those triptychs from AAA. So we didn't really think a custom map was necessary. But soon enough, it arrived in the mail from Herb, just an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with Herb's art on it. It bore no resemblance to a gas station map. There were no instructions like go 3.4 miles and then take a right on a dirt road. Instead, he drew a sky, some curving roads with a cute depiction of my boyfriend's red pickup truck looking like it was skipping down the road, a single strategically placed mountain, and in front of his house a pond with exactly 2 ducks and some reeds. So nothing was to scale, and we were pretty sure we wouldn't get there using this kind of map either. So we kept the gas station one on hand. Yet Herb's map was perfect. Somehow distance didn't turn out to be important, and we never doubted when to turn left or right. And what has stayed with me is how perfectly that map communicated everything we needed to know, including the 2 ducks in the pond who seemed to have gotten into the right position for our arrival, and without which we would have driven right past the house. So Herb met the functional requirements of a map with humor and whimsy, appreciation for his rural environment, and some uniquely Herb joy. It was better than a gas station map. It put triptych to shame, and I've never forgotten it. Sometime after this, in the winter of my senior year, Herb spent several months in our college town for reasons I no longer remember. He was off campus, and I was only vaguely aware he was in the area. But he showed up at my room one day just paying a visit. We chatted, he had his guitar, he played a little, we sang, just a regular visit in a college dorm room among friends. As he left, he asked if I was interested in doing a coffee house concert with him. Nothing very specific, just a general query, which I figured, like all things in college, may or may not come to fruition. Over the next several weeks, he showed up at my door once or twice a week. We'd chat, he'd get out his guitar, we'd have some fun, we'd sing a couple of songs together, and after a while, he wrote out the lyrics to a couple of the songs and handed those to me, all very sort of low-level, under-the-radar stuff. Then he asked whether a certain upcoming date would be good for a coffee house. He mentioned 1 or 2 other people might be joining us. And I thought, okay, getting a little more serious, but not a big deal, I thought. Coffee house, the place on campus that we called a coffee house, where this was to be, never had more than a handful of people in it, especially in the evening. So not more than a few days before the planned date, I learned that one of my classmates would be playing bass, and Herb's longtime friend from before college would be coming. Now we would be 4. Somewhere in there, Herb arranged for us to get together, and he invited someone along to take a couple of pictures, which Herb quietly put on posters and maybe in the student newspaper. And boom, it was concert day. What happened that night was far beyond what this preparation process would have led you to predict. The handful of people in the coffee house became 20, and then 30, and then 50, and then 100, and then standing room only in the entire 2-level space. The crowd was rapt. The set list was a combination of pieces Herb wrote, folk songs he reinterpreted, covers of songs from artists you've never heard of, all with Herb's stamp on them. One in particular I've never forgotten is an instrumental piece he wrote called They're Not Clouds, about the experience of driving west across the plains and at the top of a small rise in the oceanic cornfields of Kansas, seeing clouds in the distance and thinking you might run into some weather, continuing west towards those clouds for a really long time, and eventually figuring out they're not clouds, they're the snow-capped Rocky Mountains. Or as that comes out of Herb's mouth, they're the Rocky Mountains. Yeah! That moment of recognition is captured perfectly in the rhythm of joy in this composition. I relived it when I drove west myself 10 years later, and it still plays in my head when I happen into other similarly unexpected and joyful moments. People talked about this concert for a long time afterwards, with all due credit to his friend Stephen Kiernan on guitar, who's here in the front row, and my classmate Dean Bornstein on bass, who have their own distinguished musical accomplishments. The magic of this event can mostly be credited to Herb, his vision, and the humble way he made it happen. Herb had played with each of us, but we had never played together. I didn't even know that Dean, my classmate, who lived in the dorm next door, and whom I considered to be a friend, I didn't know that he played the bass. Without scheduling formal rehearsals, assigning everyone their bit, checking on mastery of the bits, Herb used his creative radar to see what would work, and he lined it all up, stealthily maybe. I'm honestly not sure how overt his intentions were, even to him, but certainly elegantly. The power of the event seemingly disproportionate to the level and type of preparation. And it was an evening to remember for the people who came, and the people those people went and got to come listen. But Herb's agenda was never about the glory. It was always about the joy, and he knew how to make it. And that's just one example of Herb in the world of art and bringing people together. Herb had the foresight to set up a recording of that concert, that and more of Herb's music. I'm pretty sure Todd can connect you with if you want to hear it. I particularly recommend They're Not Clouds. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Libby. So last year, the Herb Lockwood Prize was awarded to Vermont film director and impresario Jay Craven. Jay has directed 11 dramatic feature films and has received glowing recognition across the country. He's done an amazing job of letting people know what Vermont in the present and the past is really all about. He also established Catamount Arts in St. Johnsbury, inspiring a proliferation of satellite arts organizations in the Northeast Kingdom. His impact on the arts in Vermont is truly incalculable. And today we're delighted to have Jay back to share with us some of his thoughts about winning the prize last year. So, the 2023 Herb Lockwood Prize Award winner, Jay Craven.
Well, when Todd asked me if I would come today, I guess there's a tradition of bringing the previous year's recipient and say a few words. I think he said something to the effect of, you could just tell him how you spent the money. I said, okay, that sounds interesting. So I'm going to. But first I'm just going to say that I think that the importance of this award in a state that really has very low levels of arts funding is particularly appreciated and really valued and very important. And in fact, there also is a recognition factor in the sort of public sector that I didn't anticipate. I mean, I have been congratulated, living in the Northeast Kingdom, I have been congratulated on receiving this award 100 times, including 4 days ago. Somebody came up to me at the grocery store and said, "Congratulations." And I said, "For what?" They said, "Oh, the Lockwood Prize." So word travels slowly when it's going to the Northeast Kingdom, but it does get there sooner or later. But no, it has a kind of prestige that in a relatively short time is almost surprising. But it's because it is a rare occurrence, and it's a very special gift and recognition. And I really do appreciate it, and it has continued to resonate. And so, thank you so much. Now for what I did with the money. My initial reaction to getting the money was to do something with it that I wouldn't normally be able to do, personally. Because as a nonprofit sort of impresario and filmmaker, your work life, encroaches on your personal life all the time, including financially, and maybe even especially financially. I've just celebrated my 49th year since starting Catamount Arts, and I produced this fabulous project where 30 professionals come together to work to mentor and collaborate with 45 students from a dozen colleges to make an ambitious feature film for national release. And it involves organizing basically $1.6 million of college tuition and raising another $300,000. and getting support from the Massachusetts Film Incentive and shooting some in Vermont and some, it's a big project, and it's never been able to pay me more than $20,000 a year. And that's just sort of the reality of working in the arts in Vermont. And so it's okay. I also produce a performing arts series, and I get $20,000 there, and so it's just, you piece it together. And now I get Social Security, so I'm actually rolling in it. If you wait long enough, it will happen. So anyway, I said, on this money, I'm going to buy art of some kind, because it's in the tradition of, and in the spirit of the award itself. So I said, I'm going to set this $10,000 aside, I'm going to put it in a special place, and I'm going to start making myself, informed about what's out there. 3 days after I got the award, I got a notice that I could secure crew housing for my last film that I just shot this spring, but it had to be in within 3 days, and it was a $10,000 deposit, and the entire money went there immediately. But 3 months later, I got a grant to support Spelman College students' participation in the program from the Lawrence Rockefeller Fund that allowed me to pay myself back the money I put into the housing deposits. Now I had the $10,000 again. 2 weeks after that, we're trying to start a local food co-op, and they needed $10,000 to secure a consultant for the raising of $1.5 million to get the co-op going, and I had to loan the money again. And about 6 weeks later, they got some money, and I got paid back again. So this money was eluding me, but it was being put to useful purpose. But when you work in the arts, sometimes the same money has to continue functioning, and you stretch it as far as you can. So anyway, I finally got to the point, and I said, okay, the money is here. I'm going to keep it there. And I bought several pieces of art that sort of, made me feel good and had some kind of meaning. I bought a Picasso lithograph, and my birthday is the same day as Picasso's, so that was sort of had some resonance. I bought a John Lennon lithograph of an etching, which is fabulous. And I'd worked with John Lennon on a project to, stop the war in Vietnam back in 1972, and so that had some special meaning. And then I saw a fabulous little Chagall lithograph. So I started accumulating an art collection. I didn't really have anything, and now I suddenly have an art collection. And then I said, how about movie posters? So I bought a number of movie posters. I bought them at auctions. So let me tell you, I became addicted to this practice of now looking for art and posters and actually buying stuff. I said, but I have to stop at $10,000, which I didn't. But I did stop around $12,500. Anyway, I was able to get a fabulous, 65-inch tall, 3-foot wide for the Italian release of Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. I got a same size poster for Costa Gavras' Z, and these are larger than movie posters, and one for the French release of Chinatown. So these are suddenly like, whoa, wow. These are collector's items. These are from, anyway. And so I couldn't stop. And so I got one for Bertolucci's Conformists, and I got one for Fellini's Nights of Cabiria, and then I got one for Jean Renoir's Grand Illusion that was linen. And then there's Taxi Driver, the Spanish release of Taxi. I can't pass that up. So I collected more posters and then I just made this movie, Major Barbara, shot it. It's based on a comedy satire by George Bernard Shaw. And suddenly there is the original poster from the 1941 release of Major Barbara. I mean, how can you not? So then I was faced with this issue. I have more posters than I can deal with right now. More posters than I have wall space. And the other problem is the cost of framing this stuff is outrageous. So I sat around for a while, and then I went into the production on Major Barbara, and I brought back a cinematographer that I worked with on Martin Eden, fabulous guy, Czechoslovakian American who knows film, and he said, I said, what's the film that means more to you than anything else? He said, well, the film that opened my eyes and made me want to be a filmmaker was Nights of Cabiria. I said, I've got the poster. 1957 poster from Fellini's Nights of Cabiria. I'm not going to tell him that, but when it comes to the rap party, this will be great. So then I brought on my gaffer, who had been a student in the 2020 edition of this program for Martin Eden. And I said to her, what's the favorite movie that you have? And she said, Jacques Tati's Mon Oncle. I had that poster too. And then a young film professor from Wofford College who came on as an assistant director, worked for free, is actually going to be involved in taking the program on under her leadership. What's her favorite film? Bertolucci's Conformist. So I found, it was just uncanny. So I started handing the posters out. And now I'm left with like 3 or 4 posters. I've framed like 4 or 5 of them. I mean, Z and Vertigo and Chinatown and Major Barbara. And I have a couple left. I have a fabulous Spanish release of Taxi Driver on linen, and I have a giant poster of Raging Bull with a photograph of Robert De Niro that will scare you. And I just this week was working for the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival we were trying to choose our honorees. And we decided one of the honorees this year will be Gary Farmer, indigenous actor, Mohawk actor, who has been in a couple of my movies. He actually was in Major Barbara, he was in Disappearances. Fabulous actor, fabulous person. But there's not enough money to bring him out because he has the thing with his leg and has to fly first class and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so I've now given the Raging Bull and Taxi Driver posters to raise money to help Gary come out to Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival. So that is the legacy of the $10,000. I also bought a Louis XIV writing desk for $750, where I will be writing my memoir starting as soon as, I don't know when, but soon, which I've already started, but it needs a lot of work. So that was the legacy, to get some art, to get some movie posters, to thank my collaborators, and there were others that I gave posters to as well, suddenly having this bounty of posters, of fabulous posters, and also to have helped get this last round of Semester Cinema on its feet, and also to now bring Gary Farmer to Vermont. So it's sort of served me and served the work I do and made other people happy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. There we go. What great stories of just giving it forward. Really wonderful. Thank you so much. And right now I'd like to welcome to the podium arts writer and co-founder of 7 Days, and also someone who gives it forward, and also is an incredible art collector of Vermont art in particular and other art, Pamela Polston, to announce the winner of this year's prize.
Hello. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm trying to decide if I can read this without putting on my reading glasses. I think I'm going to wing it. On his website, this year's Herb Lockwood Prize winner notes a string of past occupations, including but not limited to assembly line worker, librarian, janitor, carpenter, and house painter. However, most Vermonters have likely known him in more celebrated roles: musician on saxophone and guitar, composer, dance program collaborator at Middlebury College, arranger, producer, teacher. And many probably know he's won a Tony Award. Our winner has had a long and fruitful journey in the Vermont music scene and beyond. I first became aware of him back in the 1980s when he was performing in an acoustic band called Feast or Famine. Several bands, genres, and years later, as he led the acid jazz group viperHouse, I began to recognize not only his incredible versatility and musical curiosity, but his significant mentorship of other younger musicians. Some of the players who came into their own in viperHouse would become in-demand jazz performers in Vermont and doing their own original work. In nearly a dozen ensembles in styles ranging from folk to jazz to what he dubs, and I quote, instrumental psych-rock film scores for non-existent movies, our man has continued to compose original works to surpass himself in creativity and to influence and collaborate with many others. By the way, that fake film score band is his current project named Freeway Clyde. Their latest record, reviewed in 7 days by music editor Chris Farnsworth earlier this year, features music from the lost film Sept Etoiles, or Seven Stars, allegedly recorded in Portugal. Unfortunately, the director was arrested on smuggling charges, again allegedly, and the film fell apart. Even if the fake film never saw the light of day, the very real soundtrack fortunately did, Farnsworth wrote. It's some of the band's best work, a clever, rarely still record that moves between sunny jazz and ambient electronica with ease. I also have to applaud this person's gift with band names. Excuse me, page 2 is coming. Maybe. Okay. Terrific music for apocryphal films aside, our man's best-known collaboration was with singer-songwriter Anais Mitchell on the wildly successful folk rock opera Hadestown. Still running on Broadway, the show, which is an expansive retelling of the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, had its more stripped-down debut in Vermont. I had the good fortune to see the nascent production in a small Burlington venue, and then a bigger and longer version off-Broadway, and finally the fully developed show on Broadway, which was utterly thrilling. Hadestown was nominated for 14 Tony Awards and took home 8, including Best Musical in 2019. Among them also was the award for Best Orchestration, which our man shared with New York musician Todd Sikafus. I am the only person who has played every live performance of Hadestown, he told Ava Solberger for an episode of her video series Stuck in Vermont. There's a lot of heart, he added. Maybe that's the Vermont part of the show. There's probably little doubt in this room who I mean by our man, a resident of both Lincoln, Vermont, and a remarkable place called Hadestown. Michael Chorney is the 2024 recipient of the Herb Lockwood Prize. He's not standing up just yet.
Todd told me not to.
Right, no. You stay seated. First, we're going to share a very special video message from also another very special person, Anais Mitchell herself, creator of Hadestown.
Hey, I'm Anais, and I worked with Michael for many years on records and on stages and on the musical Hadestown. So I had a ringside view of his ferocious integrity as an artist and as a human. Michael is so committed to art and his collaborators and his community. And I'm so grateful to have been changed by you, Michael. You are singular, your ear is singular, your heart is singular, and your hands are singular. No one deserves this more than you. I wish I could be there in the room to look you in the eye and say congratulations and thank you.
Finally, please welcome the esoteric, the reliable, and the wonderful Michael Chorney to the podium.
Congratulations. Thanks, Todd. All right, here we have the 2024 Herb Lockwood Prize Award. There we go. And this little thing, a check for $10,000. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I don't know what, I don't want to put that there. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks. Uh-oh. Glad that wasn't me. Well, I'm so honored. And thank you to the Herb Lockwood crew and to my friends, who are so many here, and collaborators, my teachers. Arthur is here. When I got the call, as it were, from Todd, he mentioned, I really didn't know much about this award at all. And he mentioned that, that it was about recognizing artistic work, but also recognizing how that work has extended itself into our community, into the state. And that, that part of it is really just knocked me over. Because in a way, it's a part that's often not acknowledged or not overtly. And that's the one that really got me. And so Todd, you know, he told me about it a bit. He said, you know, maybe I could say a few words about collaboration. And I've been, the last 4 years, I've been writing instrumental music, not words. Because I don't think words are very specific. I think music's much more specific. So this will be short. I'm going to start with my birth. For real. It occurred to me this is the 11th year of the prize, and I was born on 11/11, at 11 in the morning, so I had to mention my birth. I'll skip ahead from there. So Todd said, yeah, maybe I could talk about collaboration. And my work's always been highly collaborative. It's what I love most about doing what I do. And so in 2019, I was in New York. We were preparing Hadestown for Broadway. And it was an intense experience. And that year was the most active year of my life, by far. Preparing the work for the stage and also playing in the band. Also involved that year brought other collaborations and possibilities. I traveled around. And we were working on something that was every single note, every single word was scrutinized, was carefully tailored. And I mean every single note. And then what we were doing was creating something that could be repeated, that could happen again and again with great quality. That's the nature of that kind of thing. So there it was, the most active year working on this thing, playing the show, which meant playing the same music night after night. And get into 2020, along came the pandemic, and I was in the least active year of my life. Came back to Vermont, and as I think for a lot of us, we're able to think about, have some perspective, think about what we're doing and why. And that's when I really just told myself, what I want to do is just play with other people, and I want to be able to create work that doesn't rely on me, that relies on us. Collective imagination is what I call it. Trying to put together something that I wasn't very interested in the music that was in my head anymore. I wanted to hear what was in my collaborators' heads and what happened when we put that together in the moment. And I wasn't interested in consistency. I wasn't, I was interested in something that might reflect life a little bit more. That could be a little bit unpredictable, and that was risky, and that might not work at times. That excited me, and so I put together that ensemble to do this thing, Freeway Clyde, and I write just tiny themes, and then we elaborate on them. But it's not a theme and variation. We use them as little touchstones, landing places, and then collectively we make work. And I believe that this method we're doing is important right now in a way. It's not that we're trying to service a single vision of someone. Instead, we're collectively making a vision and seeing what can happen with that. And it's thrilling. And I believe, well, we played up in Lincoln last January. There's a great concert series that my friend Beth Duquette is putting on, monthly concerts. Most of them are folk-like things. And she wanted Freeway Clyde to play. And I was like, you sure? Because some of our stuff gets pretty out. And she's like, no, I really do. So I was like, okay. We went in and did it. It was one of the most nerve-wracking concerts I've done. And that it was all my neighbors. I've lived in Lincoln 30-some years. I was like, oh, God, now they're going to find out. And it really was. But I told the guys, I was like, let's just do our thing. We'll do it. And people really, really enjoyed it a lot. And afterwards, this woman came up. I don't know her name, but I've seen her around for 30 years. And she came up and said, it was so nice to be able to make up my own story for a change. And that is now on my website. It was a beautiful thing. But this thing about like what I give to the community, it's really, what it is ineffable. It's not something that can be easily defined or even at times recognized. And I believe that's what this award's about, it seems. Hearing about your brother and that ineffable thing that he seemed to give, that people received and understood was there, but it's not really completely pinpoint. You can't do that with it. Instead, you've created a beautiful thing, and I'm incredibly honored and grateful, and I'm done talking. Thank you so much. Oh, one more thing. Jay, my favorite movie is The Big Sleep.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming out on this less than perfect day to be here for this event. Really great to have a nearly. I think we do have a full house. So thank you all, and stick around. We've got some beautiful goodies over here, tea and cookies. So help yourself.